ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, a very warm welcome to you to this event on South-South cooperation for the implementation of the nationally determined contribution. This event is really timely because we are at the Conference of the Parties where the focus is on implementation. All the efforts that have been put by the national governments, which are summarized, as you know, in their nationally determined contributions, are being put forward to see how much progress are we likely to make towards meeting the goal for climate change. Unfortunately, when we put all these NDCs together, we are still far away from reaching the 2 degrees C, let alone the 1.5 degrees, to meet the 2 degrees C. This means that we have actually to accelerate our ambition. So this is the first challenge that we have. The second challenge is to do with the fact that the COPs focus on cooperation. And this is why it's important that countries are working together to fight the impact of climate change. Developing countries in particular, they face the challenge of the impact of climate change, which require them to work together to address challenges that are common to them, given their circumstances, their location, their culture, and sometimes even their language. And this is why South-South cooperation is absolutely key. To have access to technology, to innovate, and to develop as well, because climate change is not the only challenge that's facing us all. Sustainable development is the much larger picture. So I'm very pleased to put this event in the context of its importance. And even though we talk about South-South cooperation, we're not forgetting about the South-South North. We'll talk about the importance of South-South cooperation from their perspectives. Before I invite Her Excellency, Madame Louafi, let me just say that Morocco has been in the front, or the leading front, of those countries who are actually interested in South-South cooperation, particularly in supporting African countries and working with the Africa continent to share knowledge in a wide range of issues. So before we kick off, let me also just say, if you don't have your headphone, please pick up one, because some of our speakers will be speaking in French. So pick up your headphones so you can follow the conversation. So it gives me great pleasure to invite, Madame, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le modérateur, Mesdames et Messieurs, ma chère amie ministre congolaise Arlette Nanou, mes chers partenaires allemands, mes chers partenaires fidjiens et mes chers partenaires en fait dans l'espace multilatéral. Cet événement a une valeur, un message très fort. C'est de revivre le moment plus fort, plus singulier de la COP22. Dans l'histoire des COP, en fait, le sommet de l'action des chefs d'État, c'était un moment fort, un moment de l'action, un moment de la mobilisation collective et un moment aussi de donner, en fait, la voix collective des Africains et des pays en développement, des pays vulnérables, de la population, des enfants, des femmes qui subissent tous les jours, tous les soirs, tous les matins, les effets néfastes du changement climatique. Lors de la COP22, on a vécu un moment historique aussi avec l'adoption et avec aussi la mobilisation collective multilatérale autour de la Convention cadre des Nations Unies sur les changements climatiques avec des objectifs ambitieux, le cadre de Paris. Le cadre de Paris, il est là, et j'ai la conviction en fait profonde que l'opérationnalisation de l'accord de Paris passe par la volonté politique et passe par un dynamisme qui impliquant c'est vrai, les gouvernements, mais essentiellement le cadre non gouvernemental. Et c'est le moment aussi le plus fort, le plus important, le plus singulier et le plus essentiel qu'on a eu aussi au moment de la COP22, qu'on a créé la plateforme dédiée à rassembler tout le monde, à rassembler les gouvernements, mais aussi le non-étatique. C'est un acquis pour tout le monde et c'est un acquis qui est valorisé, qui est acté lors de la COP22 dans le grand slogan, la déclaration de Marrakech et le partenariat Marrakech traduite par l'agenda de l'action. L'équipe, ils m'ont préparé en fait un discours officiel, mais je vous dis la vérité. Je suis une femme africaine et je suis une femme en fait qui a fait un parcours un petit peu, je peux pas dire difficile, mais j'ai passé par la science. Maintenant, la science nous a donné une vérité irréversible. Il nous a donné une vérité que là, on a des femmes, on a des enfants, et on a des futurs enfants, et que si on n'a pas la volonté déterminée de porter en fait nos paroles, à rejoindre nos actes, à rejoindre en fait ces objectifs ambitieux pour libérer les femmes, les enfants de la vulnérabilité, pour donner accès aux femmes à l'électricité, pour donner accès aux enfants à l'électricité, pour donner accès aux enfants au droit à l'enseignement, parce que si on parle du changement climatique, des effets néfastes du changement climatique, il faut aussi parler du bilan, du coût en termes d'enseignement, en termes de plus de milliards, des milliers de femmes, des enfants qui peuvent être analphabètes à cause des effets néfastes du changement climatique. Là, et aussi, il faut aussi le traduire en termes d'immigration. Plusieurs femmes, plusieurs enfants, qu'on le voit tous les jours dans les écrans de la télé devant nous, qui immigrent de la sud vers le nord ou qui se rejettent dans la cimetière de la 21e siècle méditerranéenne. C'est juste parce qu'ils ont été chassés par les effets néfastes du changement climatique. Des enfants, des femmes qui ont été pris en otage dans des bandes à cause des effets néfastes du changement climatique. Et c'est pour ça qu'on doit faire les efforts. Et le Maroc, il est là, sous les instructions de Sa Majesté le roi Mohammed VI, qu'il a lancé une initiative structurante, le sommet des chefs d'État, en lançant 3 commissions. La commission climat du bassin de Congo, là on est en pleine opérationnalisation avec ma chère sœur Arlette Soudan-Nanou et aussi avec les chers frères et sœurs signataires de la déclaration conjointe à Brazzaville. Et là a lancé Sa Majesté Hafidahullah la commission du Sahel et aussi la commission des pays insulaires. Au bout, lors d'une année, on a pu présenter, lors de la COP23, la semaine dernière, un bilan basé sur la mobilisation collective, un bilan basé sur la voix collective et un bilan d'une identité africaine. Et c'est ça, parce que Sa Majesté Hafidahullah, il a bien dit, nous voulons que l'Afrique soit le leadership en termes de changement climatique. Et Inch'Allah, on aura Inch'Allah tout au niveau de mener cette orientation royale. L'engagement du Maroc de réduire ses émissions de gaz à effet de serre en 2030 de 42% par rapport aux émissions projetées à l'horizon 2030 selon un scénario bien technique mais aussi financier. Cet engagement ne sera atteint que si le Maroc accède de nouvelles sources de financement et un appui additionnel par rapport à celui mobilisé au cours des dernières années. Cet objectif, dans cette logique de mobilisation collective, cet objectif dans la logique, la philosophie, la réflexion qu'on aille ensemble avec la voix collective, on l'a traduit, on va le traduire avec des outils opérationnels tels que le 4C, le Centre des compétences en changement climatique, qui a déjà un programme d'action en termes de renforcement de capacité pour pouvoir mobiliser les finances, pour pouvoir aussi avoir des projets vivants et des projets qui peuvent aussi satisfaire les objectifs ambitieux cités et visés par l'accord de Paris. Je ne vais pas me retarder en toujours redonnant et aussi ressoulignant la bienvenue au pavillon marocain, la bienvenue dans le multilatéral avec l'esprit collectif et aussi avec l'esprit qu'on est tous et toutes concernés, on est toutes et tous, on doit mobiliser, créer des plateformes qui regroupent tous les partenaires, soit étatiques, non étatiques. On est tous et tous aussi engagés, on doit être engagés, mobilisés pour satisfaire en fait, les 3 obligations, la mobilisation de finances, le renforcement de capacité et surtout en fait, la multiplication des initiatives qui aillent vers la mobilisation et les cadres de partenariat étatiques et non étatiques. Je vous remercie d'avoir écouté cette... Merci, Monsieur le modérateur.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and for highlighting a number of relevant points, particularly on the importance of the political will. You're absolutely right that that's what makes things happen and lead to the action. And also you highlighted the importance of gender, and you're absolutely right in terms of access to the capacity building and access to other services as well. And the last point you made, which was also relevant, is in terms of the initiatives that Morocco has also facilitated, particularly the Congo Basin and the Sahel Initiative. There is a lot of strength in network and cooperation, and here I'd like to mention the international network of climate change centers of excellence and think tank, which was launched at the Marrakesh COP, because it brings all the think tanks and initiatives from various countries from the south. And within that, you have the Climate Change Competence Center, the 4C, which is a Moroccan initiative supported by the government of Germany that also helps countries to develop capacity. And before I invite our next speaker, I'd just like to say that the 4C played an important role, not just in supporting the Moroccan negotiators and helping them to take part in the negotiations, but also it supported countries through a number of projects. Ladies and gentlemen, international cooperation is one of the initiatives that helps our agenda really happen. And I'm very pleased that we have a representative from Germany, our dear colleague, Mr. Norben Gorissen, who's the head of Division of International Climate Finance and the International Climate Initiative. You may have heard of a number of countries, and we're very grateful for you of this because it has played really a good role in supporting countries through a number of projects in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, and others. So it gives me great pleasure to invite you, Norbert Gorissen, to give a speech. Thank you.
Excellency, Madam State Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to be invited to this prestigious event. Thank you very much for the invitation. And I'd like to make 4 brief points here with respect to South-South cooperation. I remember very well the COP in Marrakesh last year, and I can see how the COP in Marrakesh had also an influence on how Morocco is now taking climate action. So it's a good signal that Partnership for Action now has the name Marrakesh Partnership, because it demonstrates that COPs are creating climate champions in a way. We could see that also with other countries. We saw it with Morocco. I'm sure we will see that with Fiji. Possibly we can also see that with Germany. We will see. My second point, very briefly, is on renewable energies and energy efficiency, which Morocco has taken the lead in developing countries to develop. German government, together with many multilateral and other donors, was proud to support the initiative in Morocco to invest in the first and biggest solar power plant globally, NOR, which is now operational. Germany provided just from the IKI more than 300 million euros, and there's another amount of money in a similar size coming from our development colleagues. And we see that this technology transfer and the financial instruments and strategies you have developed around that are a very, very good example for how cooperation could look like. And I'm quite sure that Morocco would use these experiences also to work with other countries, that other countries, other developing countries, are able to implement similar technologies like that one. I come to my third point, and that was already mentioned, the 4C. So we accepted in 2013 to finance a project proposal which was coming from Morocco to support Morocco in the development of a national competence center for climate change called 4C. And it was from the very beginning on supported by the Secretary of State in charge of sustainable development, and the aim was to create, to promote more capacity building and technical assistance services in the country. The project was initiated in 2013, with the objective of creating climate change competence center as an integrated unit within the ministry. And after further consultations with the government, with civil society, with the private sector, with research institutions, so a broad stakeholder consultation, the center has become an independent non-for-profit entity with an innovative legal status. I think Morocco can be proud of that, and we are also to some extent proud of that we helped getting there. So the center will provide training and technical support in the negotiations of the Moroccan delegation. We can see that very able delegates from Morocco pushing the agenda, starting from COP19 onwards, and also culminating then in the preparations of the COP22 in Marrakesh. So I think COP22 presented a very important milestone. It was put forward by the King of Morocco during his speech with African heads as a capacity building, potential capacity building within Africa. And I think that is exactly what we would like to see, that support from developed country like Germany is not longer only necessary to go in the north-south direction, but that we create institutions, we create capacity in the countries, in this case in Morocco, which is then able to provide the support and the capacities on a horizontal level between the countries, between developing countries. And that, what I heard, is not only considered to be done within the Western African region, it's also considered to be done beyond the Atlantic Ocean, also within Latin America. So that is a very, very successful development. We would like to promote that further because we need more of those centers. And we are considering seriously to extend the project, the current project, for one more year with additional funding of 1.44 million euros to make it up and running. I would like to come to my fourth point and my last point of this address. That is the NDC partnership. Morocco, together with Germany, both ministries, development cooperation and environment, initiated the NDC partnership. That was a very successful event last year in Morocco when it was launched. And we're looking forward to the first anniversary to be celebrated tomorrow. And we're also seeing that more than 30 ministers have shown their interest to be there to celebrate that with us under your leadership and the leadership of my ministers. What is the NDC partnership doing? The NDC partnership is bringing together the development and the climate community in order to streamline and better align existing activities, existing support activities on the ground in order to achieve a maximum of output with respect to the implementation of national determined contributions, NDCs. So the partnership has now more than 70 members. The numbers are rising, even here during the COP, more than 60 countries. And the partnership has started to work with countries in depth on the ground. And we see already quite successful signals. So this partnership has also, and that's why I make this point here, the potential to be an excellent example for collaboration, for South-South cooperation, because the partnership will also aim at promoting the learning and the exchange of knowledge between the countries. So what has been worked successfully in Morocco could be shared with other countries via the partnership. And what has been worked successfully in European countries could also be shared with countries in the south. And the partnership is going to bring all the institutions who do this kind of collaboration together on the ground and promote this endeavor. So I think Morocco is an excellent champion for South-South cooperation. With your 4C, you created your own institution. We quite often hear that the fly-in, fly-out consultants, which often support developing countries, have no lasting lasting effect. So what we need, we also, in that respect, see that Morocco is also taking the lead to promoting a coordinated and effective implementation of NDCs in the NDC partnership. I thank the Moroccan government also for the invitation and thank you for your attendance.
Thanks very much, Mr. Norman Gorison, for the key words and for highlighting the model for South-South cooperation, the NDC partnership. The Climate Change Secretariat works both within and behind the scene to support a number of countries that take part in this process on a wide range of issues, and they are also, not surprising, involved in the South-South cooperation issues as well. So it gives me great pleasure to invite Mr. Donald Cooper, Director for Mitigation Data and Analysis of the Climate Change Secretariat.
By the way, distinguished in many ways. Besides having what it takes to become a political and social leader in Morocco, she also is the co-chair for the NDC partnership. So that distinguished nature expands globally. So we want to thank you for not only offering assistance for your country, but also for everybody around the world. This leadership is a theme that also carries through to Morocco. If you want to facilitate a lot of development within countries who are seeking that development, developing countries, you need to be able to show them where things can go. What is the level of achievement that can be reached? If, for example, you have a car that's 2 or 3 years old and you wish to sell it, and you find somebody who wants to buy, which one of you is going to say the number first? The person who wants to sell or the person who wants to buy? So if you're the seller, you have no real information on whether your car is worth $10,000, $15,000, or $20,000. So you are hesitant. You don't want to lose the sale, so generally you go for the lower number in order to encourage movement. But if you know that the value of your car is $25,000 and that is what the market will bear, then you will go for the $25,000. Having a country like Morocco blazing the trail forward demonstrates to all developing countries what can be achieved and where they should target their own development practices. So by doing absolutely nothing but achieving, they are already facilitating South-South cooperation. I was impressed with the way in which Morocco went forward and determined what in their country would facilitate 1.5 degrees as the goal. And they targeted their NDC towards that. It was not an obligation, it was a national choice. They also targeted the level of investment in their country that would facilitate that. So they set the bar where they wanted it to be and allowed other countries to see that they can do the same. I can tell you that that example is similar to the one that the Pacific Island CIDs set for themselves when people thought that those were ridiculous goals to achieve. They targeted in their NDCs, some of them 70, 80% renewable energy across the board by the year 2020. Absolutely ridiculous target. Some of them have already met it and consider their NDC not to be ambitious enough. So it's to set your target where you want to go, not what you think you can achieve. I would like to fashion the few comments that I'm going to make into 4 basic groups and just give you a couple of indications of things that we consider important to think about. Bear in mind, I represent the Secretariat, so I don't have to stand in front of a country and say, this is what I have done for you. So you have to take what I say and place it in your own national context, and then tell, that idiot doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't have to go back and answer to the king or to the president or to the prime minister, but put it in the correct context. Firstly, in reality, you do this all the time. What is the G77 in China? Is that cooperation amongst North-South? No, that's purely South-South cooperation. The CARICOM, the regional group, integration group within the Caribbean, the African group of ministers, all of these are purely South-South cooperation to achieve objectives. And it's this bit I think is important, is which objectives do you want to achieve? So it is not the South-South cooperation, but the application of this to achieving your NDC implementation. And it's that component which I think becomes novel and new. We have found that when countries engage, there is the history of that engagement that comes along with it. So when the G77 in China engages with the European Union, there's a history that goes along with that. And that history impacts on the end result. However, when two developing countries have discussions and cooperate, a lot of that history does not exist. They are approaching the actions on mutual terms, and it makes implementation based on that a lot easier. We have also noticed that when you discuss technology transfer, especially in areas such as renewable energy, solar power, wind power, there has been a shift in where that technology actually exists, where it is. Two of the world's leaders in those fields are China and India. When you look for technology now, you may just as likely be looking to developing countries as you are to countries in the north. And the cooperation that you already have on many other issues facilitates the expansion of this into dealing with implementation of NDCs. We have also noticed that there is a lot of different types of assistance that is available. And sometimes when the actions that could be achieved from cooperating with developing countries, there is the perception that you might be allowing countries who have an obligation in the north to provide assistance to get off easily. In other words, they are not being asked to live up to some of their commitments because you are allowing developing countries to provide part of it. In the cases of implementing your nationally determined contributions, the objective is to use every single tool, every single advantage, and every single opportunity that is advantageous to you. To not replace one opportunity with another. The commitments made by the North are the commitments made by the North, and you should continue your negotiations to maximize every benefit. On top, not instead of, on top of that, you should also seek what advantages can you get from cooperating with your neighbors. The Secretariat, in my final portion, is very keen to assist in bringing together all of the parties who are interested in developing this further. One of the things we have noticed is that there is a great willingness to provide assistance partnerships for many reasons. There is a great desire to absorb that, to take advantage of it and develop your country. in many cases, the two of them just don't seem to get together. We note that France in Paris made an offer of 2 billion euros to assist Africa. And 1 year later, in Marrakesh, almost all of that 2 billion euros was still there. Not because France doesn't want to give it to those countries or invest it, or those countries don't want to receive it. Something is not allowing those two to get together. And we believe that this is an area where more discussion on what would assist needs to take place. The Secretariat is happy to work with all of you, especially in this area, as we think it will be very, very beneficial and facilitate the North-South commitments also flowing. So I wish you all very much success during the rest of the COP, and thank you very much to Morocco for your leadership and for the invitation for the Secretariat to play a small role. Thank you very much.
Donald Cooper for those words of wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, South-South cooperation, at least within the UN, is also championed at the highest level by Antonio Guterres himself, the Secretary General. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome and invite our colleague Shaoa Zhang, who is the chief at the UN Southern Climate Partnership Incubator.
Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, Madam State Secretary, distinguished colleagues. It's really my great pleasure to participate. This is really a very important and interesting topic. I think first I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Morocco for the leadership to bring this topic forward. And last year we successfully worked with Morocco as the COP presidency and with China to organize a high-level event on South-South cooperation and climate change. And this year in July, we worked with Morocco to organize a follow-up workshop in Rabat. So I think I'm really appreciative them to bring them forward. And here we have another opportunity to discuss this important topic. As Setoni also mentioned, climate change is really a pressing issue for all of us. It's also a great threat to the sustainable development. And we need, apparently, even we have this historical Paris Agreement adopted, we still have a big gap in the implementation. And now we need all this hand on deck, and we need more collaboration. South-South cooperation is a complement to the North-South, but it's also a very important and useful tool for us to achieve this goal. I think also because of this, we are all facing, particularly the developing countries, are facing the severe impact of the climate change, and we need to adapt. It's not the impact in future, it's now. So we have more ownership, and we are placed to see there is more ownership for developing countries or climate action. I think this also drives the more collaboration among developing countries on climate change. And also, apparently, we are seeing a lot of solutions and experiences are accumulated in the developing countries that they can be shared with each other. They can be disseminated to a broader stakeholders who can all benefit from all these solutions. So that's, I think, the importance of the South-South cooperation on climate change. And we are pleased to see that South-South cooperation is gaining momentum. We have more initiatives that has been launched, things Paris to Morocco here, and we see a lot of countries actually include the South-South cooperation in the national determined contributions. And this is also a very important area, has been recognized in this 2030 agenda for sustainable development. And another specific case is the Technology Executive Committee is also looking at this, how to promote the South-South cooperation in the adaptation technology area. I think this is also showing how this South-South cooperation is gaining the momentum. And we see there's a lot of the areas that they are key to the climate change, but also with a great potential for South-South cooperation. I just saw the film presented before our discussion. I see, for instance, in Morocco, there's a lot of area they have made a lot of achievement. I think this is all key area that we can promote the South-South cooperation. For instance, the renewable energies. I think now, if you look at this global renewable development, I think it's more than half of the installed capacities from developing countries, how they can learn from each other. This is a very important area. And also, I think agriculture, as also Morocco launched this Africa agriculture initiative, I think this is very important for all the global south with the impact of the climate change. And we see a lot of the infrastructure development South-South cooperation ongoing. I think this is closely linked to the how to make this low carbon infrastructure development. And also, this infrastructure are key for adaptation to the climate change. I think this is the areas we can look at as well. And also there's a broader sectors related to adaptation that is very important for the global south. So all of these key areas I think have a great potential for South-South cooperation on climate change. But having said that, we're not going to say, okay, the South-South cooperation, we can just do it easily. There's a lot of challenges associated with the South-South cooperation as well. We all know that it's, I think it's compared to the tradition of North-South collaboration, we have less well-developed institution to support that. And somehow we are not, there are resources and there's demand, but they are not very well connected. And with this, I think we need more platform opportunity to discuss how we can promote the South-South cooperation, like the event here and more. So it's South-South cooperation, not a new thing, but in the climate change, it's still an emerging area. I think we are still in the learning by doing phase. So I think the more we are doing, the more we can learn from that. So in that sense, I think all of us we need to work together and think for the UN, as just my colleague Dan mentioned, the broader UN is committed to support these important initiatives. And it's not us, it's only us, it's not only the member state, the government. I think we should include the private sector, and we worked with the developed country partners. I think they are playing a very important role in the past for this triangular triangular collaboration in the development domain. I think it should be expanded to the climate change as well. And with this, the United Nations actually, we included this South-South cooperation as an important pillar in the new SG's Antonio Guterres, the climate engagement strategy. And we are recently developed an action plan to further promote the South-South cooperation. We worked with, as the Office for South-South Cooperation, we work with all these UN entities to advance this important work. And there's a three key elements in the action plan. I think first, we will generate the political momentum to advance the South-South cooperation together with the COP. We have this BAPA. If you're doing the South-South cooperation, you know this is the BAPA Buenos Aires Action Plan 40 years anniversary. So we have a South-South cooperation forum in 2019. And the SG also committed to have a climate summit in 2019. I think we'll use this to generate more momentum on South-South cooperation on climate change. And we are also committed to strengthen the knowledge on the South-South cooperation. We're going to launch a report on the landscape of the South-South cooperation action on climate change in this year. We're regularly doing this knowledge product. But more importantly, as a UN, we would like to be a facilitator to catalyze the important work. So we committed to help to support more network, like the citizen mentioned, this international network for climate change, to bring particularly the practitioners from the global south together so we can learn from each other, do more with each other. And the last but not least is we need to work on these key sectors like renewable, like the electric vehicle. These are very potential promising areas. Even in the South-South cooperation, we would like to focus on those key areas to incubate more partnerships among Global South on these key sectors. So that's all we committed to do. And with that, I think I will conclude my remarks, and I wish you have a fruitful discussion. I'm looking forward to work with you in the future for this important matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shawa. So this concludes part one of our event. So let me thank very much our keynote speakers, and I can let you go and have some rest before we move on to a 5-minute film to show you how South-South cooperation is happening in Morocco through a number of initiatives and projects. And then after that, I'll invite our panelists here, where we'll have some discussion. And I hope you can join us, either share with us your experience or ask some questions. So hopefully we'll have about half an hour after that event. Thank you very much, and we can watch the film for 5 minutes. And please do join us. This is an informal discussion now. Please do join us if you want to share your views, if you have any questions to ask. So I'm going to ask you questions one at a time, and you can put your points across, and then we'll open the floor for discussion. So please be brief and to the point. So let me start with Rob first. Sorry, turn my phone off. Let me start with Rob Bradley from the NDC partnership, because we heard about how important is this partnership in supporting countries to develop and implement their NDC. And that needs a number of tools, obviously, that the countries need to have to be able to deal with the NDCs. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what kind of tools this NDC partnership has been developing to support the countries.
I guess I'd point to a couple of things in the spirit of keeping it brief. One is that for all of the countries going through the process of NDC implementation now, this is a process of discovery. So for many of the issues that we are working on, we are finding new ways, new challenges that we run into, but new ways of overcoming those, different instruments that we employ, different technology solutions, and so forth. And so a big part of what we're finding ourselves doing in the NDC partnership, as more than 60 countries and 11 institutions come together, is finding new ways to share those discoveries as we reach them. We have teams that are working in great detail in particular countries, but increasingly we're seeing the need to bring together countries in real time, as it were, so that these experiences can be shared as they arise. And so we've seen recent convenings, for instance, in Rabat in September of a South-South dialogue. I think those are early instances of what we need very much more of, and which the NDC partnership will be convening. The second thing that I would point to is that the huge array of information that is emerging from this is tough to manage. And so one of the things that we have been doing in the NDC partnership is to build online platforms that allow countries and other users to access that knowledge in as free and easy a way as possible. So we have built online platforms that allow you, for instance, to search for particular funds. If you're interested in a particular sector or a particular region, you can search among 500 different sources of funding. A similar platform allows users to access tools, which could be implementation guides, they could be technology platforms, they could be help desks. And then Climate Watch, which we released just a week ago, provides all of the content of every NDC, links it across to sustainable development goals, provides underlying climate data. Again, we've made all of this available free so that everyone can download and use it in whatever way they have. But we're very conscious that this is just the beginning. And as we learn things together, we need to be continually coming together to ensure that those experiences are being exchanged as quickly and as freely and as transparently as possible.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Rob, for highlighting that in terms of tools. As part of the discovery of the process, and with the focus on Africa in particular, and I'd like to bring in Stephen Gold here, one of the work you've been doing is particularly on regional dialogues. And I understand you had a regional dialogue with Africa. It would be useful if you could share with us, what was the outcome of that and how useful has that been in supporting countries to implement their NDCs?
Thank you very much for that, and it's a great pleasure for me as well, on behalf of UNDP, to be here and have the opportunity to talk about South-South cooperation in terms of some of the work that UNDP, in cooperation with the Climate Change Secretariat, the NDC Partnership, and others, has undertaken, specifically on NDC implementation and South-South cooperation. I think we heard Donald Cooper earlier talk about let's look for every possible advantage that we can find beyond the financing that's already available. What are the opportunities? And I think the question is an important one in the sense that indeed UNDP, since before Paris, has been supporting a number of regional dialogues. First on the intended nationally determined contributions. That was the very first workshop held in Latin America in 2014. And the most recent one, indeed, was the workshop that we organized with the government of Morocco and others in Rabat in September, where we had, I think it was 48 African countries with over 200 participants attending. And we really had an opportunity there to exchange on national experiences on NDC implementation. We had an opportunity to present various case studies, to look specifically at real-world experiences in developing, for example, systems to monitor progress in NDC implementation. We had an opportunity to talk about developing strategies. What were the opportunities? What were the challenges? How were countries able to mobilize resources to address elements of their nationally determined contributions? Even details like costing out NDC actions and determining investment needs, those kinds of things. So we really had an opportunity to have a dialogue. Now, obviously, countries come with very different experiences, different national circumstances. Some countries are well advanced in NDC implementation, others were just beginning. And we found that through a series of presentations of experiences and case studies, through a series of breakout practical working groups, we were able to dig quite deep and share experiences. And UNDP is now working together with its partners to help to codify some of these experiences in NDC implementation guidance, which comes from what I would say this time of discovery, right? We're all in this together. I remember in the very first INDC workshop, we sat around the room and everyone said, what is an intended nationally determined contribution? Is adaptation even a part of that? What are we doing? How are we going to submit that? Up until the experience in Morocco, in Rabat, where countries had a very mature understanding and experiences to share amongst each other. So it was really very exciting, and we anticipate that we're going to be doing this in the future, again in the cooperation with the UNFCCC, the NDC Partnership, and others, to continue to share experiences. There was a point that you raised as well, Mr. Moderator, which is that it's not just about South-South cooperation, but it's really about this global cooperation. And the focus of this event is indeed South-South cooperation, but we're really talking about South-South, North-South. I've been involved in these negotiations on and off for 20 years, and I don't think I've seen it quite like this, where we're feeling connected in this way to move forward and expedite action on NDC implementation. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much. And you raised a number of points, and I'm going to pick up on one which you mentioned to do with the costing of NDCs and how you can attract investment in that. So that gives me a nice turn to you, Lamia Bazir, from the bank sector. And I think importance of involving the private sector and investors. So in this area of cooperation, how have you been cooperating with other banks, particularly the banks in Africa, for instance?
Thank you very much for your question. I am very happy to be here and also to represent the bank sector, because I would like to extend what you said. South-South cooperation is also about multi-sector cooperation. And I think that Group Crédit Agricole that I represent has been quite a model in Morocco about how the government has relied on the banking sector to implement its agricultural vision and policies quite successfully. So as Group Crédit Agricole, we have been keen since the very beginning to share our expertise and model with other African countries, both with regard to our cooperation with the government and how we have been hand in hand working to leverage agriculture as a catalyst for economic growth in Morocco, but also in terms of sharing our model internally. Because Crédit Agricole has been having an added value because of its expertise on agriculture and farming. We know that agriculture represents a field full of challenges, the most important opportunity for our continent. Challenges because most farmers and especially small and medium farmers do not have access to traditional banking. But within our bank, we have, through our expertise and knowledge of the farmers, developed products that are adapted to their needs, climate irregularities, and also limited credits. So this model per se is quite interesting. So we have developed a South-South cooperation policy. So with now up to 11 African countries, we're going to other African partners. We're finding financial institutions that are also having activities on the agricultural sector. And together, we're sharing expertise in order to reinforce their capacities to finance agriculture in their own countries. Because we really believe that the adaptation and the resilience of agriculture is also linked to access to finance and adapted and optimized finance. So that is why it was very important for us to find these banks, agricultural banks, in other African countries, work together to improve their own systems. But that is only one side. The other side is that we have been financial partners of the AAA initiative, which is the initiative of the adaptation of the agriculture, African agriculture. So it is really important for us to ensure that Africa also captivates some of the UN climate funds. I think it's only captivates 5%, which is very low. And it's really important for us to make sure that whatever projects on African adaptation are proposed to these funds, especially the ones managed by Mirova, that is aiming to mobilize above $300 million for these projects, that these African farmers and African projects that do have the expertise, the support to design and develop technically and financially suitable projects to benefit from these funds. So Crédit Agricole has been going on the ground, has met other projects in African countries, and is working together with partners in other African countries to make sure that these projects actually get some of the funds. So we are very proud to be part of this dynamic that has been impulsed in our country and has been confirmed during the COP23 in Marrakesh.
Thank you for the question. These questions were not given to us in advance, so I'm going to speak from, as you requested, from my own perspective. What we're hearing time and time again, and for quite some time, we're hearing it at the COP this time, we hear it through UNDP's work all the time, is that the ideas to transition to a climate resilient and low carbon or zero carbon economy, the ideas are there. People say, oh, we need better projects, we need more ideas. No, the projects are there, the ideas are there. But what's missing is financing. We know that's the case. And for me, what is critical with regard to South-South cooperation or South-North cooperation is how can we collectively expedite financing to spur this kind of action. So there's two issues. On the one hand, we know that we have access to public funding through this convention process and through other processes as well. How can we take that limited public financing, which is far insufficient for what we need to use it for, and use that to catalyze private financing? How can we create an investment environment that is more suitable, where investors like Khedid Akakol and others will say, hey, you know, we feel confident that this makes sense to us. Profit can be made and we can do the right thing. We need to address the barriers to investment. We need to look at the policies. We need to look at feed-in tariffs. We need to look at various taxation schemes. We need to really address the overall policy frameworks that are currently barriers to this type of investment. And that is a process that has to be done through South-South and North-South cooperation. UNDP is involved in this work through, for example, our de-risking renewable energy approach. But I just, again, want to emphasize that the ideas are there, the projects are there. It's the flow of funding, particularly from the private sector, which we all know needs to increase. And I think if we're able to focus more on removing the barriers to investment.
Please join me to thank our panelists for staying with us and answering all the questions. And to you also for staying with us despite this noise. So thank you all very much, and I hope you picked up something useful today. Thank you.
واخا تفضل قول لي ملي تكون زيتوني ولداده chef d'unité de technologie pour le développement durable qui travaille dans le PNUE à Paris. Okay. Alors, cet événement a été organisé par le gouvernement du Maroc ici à la COP23 en Allemagne. C'est en fait le suivi de plusieurs initiatives qui ont été prises par le gouvernement du Maroc, même avant la COP22 qui a eu lieu à Marrakech. Et le but de cet événement, c'était de voir l'importance de la coopération entre les pays du Sud, ce qu'on appelle la coopération Sud-Sud, pour voir comment est-ce que cette coopération pourrait nous aider à réaliser les objectifs des pays qui sont déterminés dans leur contribution nationale pour lutter contre le changement climatique. Et comme vous avez vu, on a eu l'honneur d'avoir des ministres africains, avoir aussi des représentations des gens de l'Allemagne, des experts et aussi des experts d'autres pays. Et on a abordé des questions sur les défis, sur les opportunités de la coopération Sud-Sud. Et là, on a fait des conclusions justement sur l'importance de la coopération Sud-Sud, surtout du fait qu'elle permet aux pays de partager non seulement le savoir-faire, mais aussi des politiques, des connaissances, des technologies aussi, de renforcement de capacités pour faire face aux défis de changement climatique. Et la question, elle est vraiment aussi plus globale que le changement climatique, parce qu'on sait que la plupart des pays, ils ont des défis de développement aussi et de sécurité. Alors on a abordé ces questions et la conclusion était justement le renforcement de cette question de coopération Sud-Sud qui va aider les pays, les participants à cet événement, de voir l'importance, surtout dans ce cadre des négociations ici à Bonn et même au-delà, pour réaliser les objectifs de changement climatique. C'est bon? Ok.